Victoria Sterling's hands trembled as she hung up the phone. The call that would change everything had lasted exactly 47 seconds. "Ms. Sterling, this is Detective Martinez with the NYPD. We need you to come to the station immediately. It's about the painting you reported stolen 3 months ago." The stolen painting? The one piece from her private collection she'd never told anyone about? Not even Emma. The one that contained secrets worth killing for. Victoria stared across. Her cramped studio apartment at the empty space on the wall where Midnight Confessions had once hung. Sophia Laurent's final work, painted just before her mysterious disappearance. The art world believed only 5 Laurent originals existed, but Victoria possessed the 6th, the one Sophia had given her personally, along with a whispered warning that still echoed in her nightmares. "If anything happens to me, burn it. Never let them know what I painted in the shadows." But Victoria hadn't burned it. She'd cherished it, studied it, discovered the hidden layer of paint that revealed something impossible, something that powerful people would do anything to keep buried. Now someone had taken it from her locked apartment without breaking a single window or door. Victoria grabbed her jacket and headed for the subway, unaware that across the city, a man in a tailored suit was already 3 steps ahead of her every move. Adrien Blackwood stood in his penthouse office, watching the city blur past his floor-to-ceiling windows. The quarterly reports lay forgotten on his desk. His mind was consumed by a different kind of business entirely. "Sir, the acquisition is complete," James Mitchell announced, entering with a tablet that glowed with fresh intel. "We now own controlling interest in the Meridian Gallery. The curator won't know what hit her." Adrian's reflection smiled back at him from the glass, but his eyes remained cold as winter steel. "Victoria Sterling has something that belongs to me. Something my father died trying to find. The Laurent painting, among other things." Adrien turned from the window, his presence filling the room like a gathering storm. "Sophia Laurent didn't just paint pretty pictures, James. She documented every dirty secret of New York's elite. For 30 years, hidden in plain sight, layered beneath innocent landscapes and portraits." James shifted uncomfortably. "And you believe Victoria Sterling knows about the hidden paintings?" "I know she does." Adrian's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Because my father's journals mention her by name, Sophia Laurent's protege. The only person she trusted with the truth." What Adrien didn't tell James was the rest of the story. How his tech empire was built on stolen innovations. How his father had killed for those secrets. How Victoria Sterling was the key to either his ultimate triumph or his complete destruction. The charity gala at the Meridian Gallery was tonight. Adrien had orchestrated every detail, from the guest list to the lighting. Victoria would be there, curating an exhibition she didn't know was designed to trap her. "Prepare the car," Adrien commanded. "Tonight, I collect what's mine." As evening fell over Manhattan, Victoria stood in the Meridian Gallery, surrounded by Sophia Laurent's publicly known works. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was about to celebrate the art of a woman whose greatest masterpieces would never see the light of day. The gallery hummed with activity as staff made final preparations. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across paintings that had captivated the art world for decades. But Victoria's trained eye caught details others missed. The way Sophia's brush strokes seemed to hide symbols, the almost imperceptible variations in texture that suggested layers beneath layers. "Victoria, darling, you look like you've seen a ghost." Emma Chen approached with her usual whirlwind energy, but her smile faltered when she saw her friend's pale complexion. "Just tired," Victoria lied, adjusting her simple black dress. Same dress she wore to every important event, though tonight it felt more like armor than elegance. Emma studied her with the sharp instincts of a professional art critic. "This is about more than the stolen painting, isn't it? You've been acting strange for weeks." Before Victoria could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat. Someone important had arrived. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. Adrien Blackwood stood in the doorway, scanning the room with predatory precision. Their eyes met across the gallery, and she felt the world tilt on its axis. He was more striking in person than in the business magazines. Tall, commanding, with steel-gray eyes that seemed to see straight through her careful composure. But there was something else in his gaze. Recognition. As if he knew her. As if he'd been looking for her. Adrien began moving through the crowd, never breaking eye contact. Victoria's instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet remained rooted to the marble floor. "Who is that?" Emma whispered. "Trouble," Victoria replied, though she didn't yet understand how prophetic those words would prove to be. When Adrien Blackwood finally reached her, his first words changed everything. "Miss Sterling, I believe you have something that belonged to my father." Victoria's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor. The sound echoed through the gallery like a gunshot, drawing curious stares from nearby guests. "I don't know what you're talking about," she managed, though. Her voice betrayed her. Adrien's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Shall we discuss this privately? I believe the gallery has a lovely office upstairs." It wasn't a request. Emma stepped protectively closer to Victoria. "I'm sorry, but Miss Sterling is working tonight. Perhaps you could schedule an appointment. Through proper channels?" "Emma, it's okay," Victoria said quietly, her mind racing. If Adrien Blackwood knew about her connection to Sophia Laurent, then he knew far more than she'd ever imagined possible. "Give me 10 minutes." As they walked toward the private elevator, Victoria felt the weight of every gaze in the room.
Great.
Whitmore, the gallery director, looked concerned. Several board members whispered among themselves. But it was the man in the dark corner who made her blood run cold. She'd seen him before, lurking outside her apartment building. The elevator doors closed with mechanical finality. "Your security is quite good," Adrien said conversationally, as if they were discussing the weather. "Breaking into your apartment required considerable creativity." Victoria's hands clenched into fists. "You stole my painting. I reclaimed stolen property." His voice hardened. "Sophia Laurent was commissioned by my father to create a series of portraits documenting New York's power structure. She was paid handsomely for her discretion. What she created instead was a collection of evidence that could destroy lives." The elevator stopped at the gallery's private floor. Victoria's office felt smaller with Adrien in it, his presence overwhelming. The familiar space, filled with art books and half-finished catalog entries. "Sophia never stole anything," Victoria said, backing toward her desk. "She was an artist, not a blackmailer, was she?" Adrien pulled out his phone and showed her a photograph. It was Midnight Confessions, but under different lighting that revealed the hidden layer beneath. Victoria's breath caught. She'd never seen it displayed this way. The underlying image showed a man striking a woman in what appeared to be a penthouse office. The man's face was clearly visible, distinguished, powerful, with the same steel-gray eyes as his son. "My father, Richard Blackwood, beating his secretary to death," Adrien said matter-of-factly. Sophia Laurent witnessed it from the building across the street. Instead of going to the police, she painted it, hidden it beneath a seemingly innocent night scene. Brilliant, really. Victoria's legs gave out. She sank into her chair, staring at the phone screen. "That's impossible. Sophia would never have covered up a murder, wouldn't she, for the right price?" Adrien pocketed the phone and moved closer. "My father paid her $2 million for her silence, but Sophia was clever. She created insurance policies, hidden paintings that documented every secret she learned over 30 years in New York's high society." "You're lying, am I?" Adrien leaned against her desk, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. "Then explain why she gave you that particular painting. Why she chose you as her confidant. A struggling gallery curator with no family, no connections, no one who would miss you if you disappeared." The words hit Victoria like physical blows. "Sophia cared about me. She was my mentor. Sophia Laurent used you." Adrien's voice softened, almost gentle. She knew she was dying. Cancer, though she kept it secret. She needed someone to hold her leverage. Someone innocent enough that no one would suspect. Someone expendable. Victoria stood abruptly, her chair rolling backward. "Get out. I'm afraid I can't do that." Adrien straightened, and suddenly the office felt like a cage. "You see, Victoria, you're not just holding evidence of my father's crimes. According to Sophia's journals, which I've recently acquired, you possess locations of 17 other hidden paintings. Paintings that document murders, embezzlement, and corruption involving some of the most powerful people in the country. I don't know about any journals or other paintings. Perhaps not. Consciously. Oh, but Sophia was thorough. She wouldn't have trusted such valuable information to chance. Adrien walked to her bookshelf, running his fingers along the spines. She hid clues in the painting she gave you, coordinates perhaps, or coded references to locations. Victoria's mind raced back to the stolen painting. She had studied every brushstroke, every color variation. There had been strange marks in the corners, almost like mathematical notations. She'd assumed they were Sophia's artistic signatures. Even if what you're saying is true, Victoria said carefully, why tell me? Why not just take what you want? Adrien turned to face her, and for a moment his carefully constructed mask slipped. She saw something raw and desperate in his eyes. Because I need your help to find them before someone else does. Someone else? People my father worked with? It's the ones who ordered that secretary's death? They know about Sophia's insurance policies now. They know about you. He pulled out his phone again, showing her a new image. A photograph of Emma leaving the gallery earlier that day, taken from across the street. They've been watching your friend for weeks. Victoria's blood turned to ice. If you hurt Emma, I won't. But they will, unless we find those paintings first and destroy them. Adrien moved closer, his voice urgent. Victoria, listen to me. My father was a monster, but he was their monster. He did their dirty work for 30 years. Now they need to clean up the evidence, and that means eliminating anyone who might have seen Sophia's hidden masterpieces. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one offering you a choice. His hand reached toward her face, then stopped. Work with me, and I'll protect you and your friend. Refuse, and you'll both be dead within the week. Victoria stared into his eyes, searching for deception. What she found was worse than lies. She found truth. There's something else, she whispered. Something I never told anyone. The painting Sophia gave me wasn't just about your father. There was another figure in the hidden layer, a woman watching from the doorway. Adrien went very still. What did she look like? Elegant, blonde. She was holding something in her hand. A recording device, maybe, or a camera. Victoria met his gaze. She was smiling. Adrien's face went white. My mother. The revelation hung between them like a loaded gun. Victoria realized she wasn't just holding evidence of murder. She was holding proof of a conspiracy that went deeper than she'd ever imagined.
I'm Victoria,
Adrien said softly. I think we need to have a much longer conversation. But before she could respond, the lights went out. In the suffocating darkness of Victoria's office, the emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the walls. Victoria could hear Adrien's breathing, controlled but tense, inches away from her. Stay close to me, he whispered, his hand finding hers in the darkness. This isn't a power outage. Victoria's heart hammered against her ribs. How do you know? Because I've been expecting this. Adrien pulled her toward the window, where the city lights still blazed beyond the gallery. The power cut is isolated. To this building, they're here. Through the glass, Victoria could see black SUVs positioned at every exit. Men in dark clothing moved with military precision around the building's perimeter. Who are they? The same people who killed my father when he became a liability? Adrien's voice was grim. The same people who made Sophia Laurent disappear? When she stopped playing their games, Victoria jerked her hand away. Sophia died of cancer. You said so yourself. I lied. Adrien turned to face her, his features sharp in the emergency lighting. Sophia Laurent was murdered 3 days after. She gave you that painting. Made to look like a heart attack, but the autopsy the first commission told a different story. The room seemed to spin around Victoria. You're saying I've been living with evidence of multiple murders for 3 months? You've been living on borrowed time. Adrien moved to her desk, opening drawers with efficient precision. Where do you keep your personal files? Anything Sophia might have given you besides the painting? I don't understand why you're helping. Me. If these people killed your father, my father was a monster, Victoria. But he was also the only family I had. Adrien's hand stilled on the drawer handle. When I inherited Blackwood Industries, I inherited his enemies too. The consortium he worked for doesn't believe in loose ends. Victoria heard footsteps in the hallway outside, measured, purposeful, getting closer.
Ow.
There's a service elevator. Behind the storage room, she whispered. It goes directly to the parking garage. They'll have that covered too. Adrien closed the drawer and turned to her. But there's another way out. The building next door is connected through the old subway tunnel system. Sophia showed you, didn't she? Victoria stared at him. How could you possibly know that? Because I've been studying you for months, Victoria. Your routines, your relationships, your secrets. His admission hung in the air like a challenge. I know you take that route home twice a week to avoid the main streets. I know you discovered it during one of Sophia's midnight painting sessions in the abandoned subway platform. The footsteps stopped directly outside her office door. Victoria felt trapped between two predators, unable to trust either. But when the door handle began to turn, her survival instincts kicked in. This way, she hissed, leading Adrien toward a barely visible panel in the wall behind her filing cabinet. The hidden passage was narrow and dusty, clearly unused for decades. They crawled through in darkness, following a path that descended into the building's forgotten infrastructure. Behind them, Victoria could hear her office door burst open, followed by angry voices and the sound of furniture being overturned. The tunnel system was a maze of abandoned subway passages and utility corridors that dated back to the earliest 1900s. Victoria had explored them with Sophia during those strange, late-night adventures that had seemed magical at the time. Now they felt like pathways to hell. How far does this go? Adrien asked, his voice echoing off the brick walls. About 6 blocks. Connects to the old Penn Station tunnels. Victoria paused at a junction, trying to remember the correct path. Sophia used to set up easels down here. She said the isolation helped her think clearly. What else did she tell you about her work? Victoria hesitated. They were fleeing for their lives, but she still wasn't sure if Adrien was her savior or her captor. She talked about light and shadow, how the most important truths were hidden in plain sight. Did she ever mention the Prometheus group? The name sent ice through Victoria's veins. What do you know about Prometheus? Adrien stopped walking. Because they're the ones hunting us right now. Consortium of politicians, business leaders, and criminals who've controlled New York's power structure for over 50 years. My father was their enforcer. Sophia Laurent was their accidental witness. And your mother? My mother founded Prometheus. Adrien's voice was bitter. She married my father to gain access to his connections, then used him to eliminate anyone who threatened their organization. When he started developing a conscience in his later years, she had him killed too. Victoria felt sick. So when you inherit, I inherited a target on my back and a moral debt I can never repay. They emerged into a wider tunnel with rusted train tracks running along the floor, but I also inherited my father's files. Every operation, every murder, every crime they committed. I've been building a case against them for 2 years. Then why do you need Sophia's paintings? 'Cause files can be dismissed as forgeries? But Sophia's paintings are first-hand testimony. Art doesn't lie, Victoria, and these people have been lying for decades. They reached an intersection where multiple tunnels branched off in different directions. Victoria chose the path that led toward her apartment building, but Adrien caught her arm. We can't go to your place. They'll be waiting. Then where? Somewhere they'll never think to look. Adrien pulled out a small flashlight, illuminating a narrow passage that seemed to disappear into darkness. My mother's penthouse. Victoria stared at him. You want to hide in the home of the woman who wants us dead? She's in Switzerland this week for a medical procedure. The penthouse is empty, and it's the last place they'd expect us to go. Adrien's smile was predatory. Besides, if we're going to bring down Prometheus, we need access to their central files. And my dear mother keeps everything in her private safe. This is insane. This is survival. Adrien started down the dark passage, unless you have a better idea. Victoria thought about Emma, probably wondering where she'd disappeared to. About her small apartment with its empty wall, where Sophia's painting had hung. About the life she'd built that was crumbling around her like ancient bricks. How do I know you won't kill me once you get what you need? Adrien stopped and turned back to her. In the flashlight's glow, his face looked younger, more vulnerable. Because Victoria Sterling, you're the first person in my life who's worth more to me alive than dead. The admission hit her like a physical force. She saw truth in his eyes, but also something darker, obsession, possession, the look of a man who'd decided she belonged to him. That's not reassuring, she whispered. It should be, because it means I'll kill anyone who tries to hurt you, even if it destroys me in the process. They continued through the tunnels in silence, both understanding that they'd crossed a line, from which there was no return. Victoria was no longer just running from killers. She was running toward a man who might be more dangerous than any of them. When they finally emerged through a concealed entrance in Central Park, the city felt different. The familiar lights and sounds seemed threatening now, full of hidden watchers and unknown dangers. Adrien said as they approached the entrance to his mother's building, "There's something else you need to know." "What now?" "The painting Sophia gave you. The one they stole from your apartment." His voice was carefully controlled. "I didn't take it to recover evidence. I took it because I needed to be sure." "Sure of what?" "That you were really Sophia's protege, that you could see what others couldn't." They stood in the shadow of the luxury hires, and Adrien finally met her eyes. "Because the painting I showed you in your office wasn't the real Midnight Confessions. It was a forgery I had created to test your reaction." Victoria felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "Where's the real painting?" "Safe. Along with 16 others I've collected over the past 2 years." Adrien's smile was dangerous. "You see, Victoria, I haven't been hunting Sophia's hidden masterpieces. I've been collecting them. And now I need you to help me use them. To destroy the people who murdered everyone we've ever cared about." As they entered the building, Victoria realized she was no longer running from the hunter. She had become part of the hunt. Eleanor Blackwood's penthouse was a monument to power disguised as refined taste. Every surface gleamed with deadly perfection. From the marble floors that reflected the city lights to the collection of priceless artifacts that had probably been stolen from their rightful owners, Victoria stood in the center of the living room, feeling like she'd walked into a spider's web. Your mother has interesting decorating tastes. She collects things that remind her of victories. Adrien moved through the space with familiar ease, checking windows and exits with practiced paranoia. That Ming vase belonged to a congressman who opposed her housing development plans. The Rothko painting came from a judge who refused to rule in her favor, and they just gave these to her. They died mysteriously, and their estates were liquidated. Adrien stopped before a wall of family photographs. His younger self smiled from various formal events, but his eyes were always wary, even as a child. My mother doesn't just destroy her enemies, Victoria. She erases them completely. Victoria studied the photographs, noting how Eleanor Blackwood seemed to command every frame. Even when she stood beside powerful men, it was clear who held the real authority. She's beautiful, Victoria said quietly. She's a predator. Adrien's voice was flat. And she raised me to be just like her. Are you? The question hung in the air like smoke. Adrien turned to look at her, and Victoria saw something raw and uncertain in his expression. I used to think I was different, but I could use her methods. For better purposes, you walked to the wall, safe hidden behind a false panel. But standing here now, having manipulated you into exactly where I need you to be, I'm not so sure. Victoria's blood chilled. What do you mean? I mean, I've been lying to you since the moment we met. Adrien's fingers worked the safes combination. With practiced precision. The people hunting us tonight? I arranged for them to find you. The room seemed to contract around Victoria. What? I needed you scared enough to trust me. Desperate enough to follow me anywhere.
Ow.
The safe opened with a soft click. I've been orchestrating this entire evening, Victoria. The gallery exhibition, the blackout, even our escape through the tunnels. Victoria backed toward the window, her mind racing. The consortium, Prometheus, all of it? Oh, they're real. They really did kill my father and Sophia Laurent. Really are hunting anyone connected to those paintings. Adrien began removing items from the safe, including several rolled canvases. But they're not the immediate threat tonight. Then who is? Me. The word hit Victoria like a physical blow. She looked around the penthouse with new eyes, seeing the exits Adrien had checked, the windows he'd examined. Not for escape routes. For security, you're holding me prisoner. I'm protecting you from making a very stupid decision. Adrien unrolled one of the canvases, revealing a painting Victoria had never seen before. It showed a young woman being murdered in what appeared to be an art studio. This is Sophia Laurent's final work. Painted the night before she died, Victoria's legs gave out. She sank onto the pristine white sofa, staring at the canvas. The murdered woman looked exactly like her. Sophia Laurent painted her own death, Adrien continued, his voice eerily calm. But she also painted yours. She knew what would happen. When she gave you that first painting, she knew you'd become a target. That's impossible. Sophia cared about me. Sophia Laurent was dying of cancer and wanted revenge against the people who'd controlled her for 30 years. Adrien rolled up the painting carefully. You were never her protege, Victoria. You were her sacrifice. Victoria's mind reeled. Every memory of her relationship with Sophia suddenly seemed different. The late-night painting sessions in abandoned places, the secret techniques Sophia had taught her, the final gift of midnight confessions. She used me. She used everyone, including me. Adrien sat across from her, close enough to touch but maintaining careful distance. My mother commissioned me to find all of Sophia's hidden paintings 2 years ago. What she didn't know is that I've been planning to use them against her. So what happens now? You've got your paintings, you've got me trapped. What's your endgame? My endgame was supposed to be simple. Use the paintings to destroy Prometheus, including my mother. Take control of their network for myself. Adrien's voice softened. But then I met you, at the gallery tonight. At the gallery 3 months ago. The first exhibition you curated. Adrien's admission hit her like ice water. I came to evaluate you as a potential asset. Someone I could manipulate into helping me find the paintings. Victoria remembered that night. Stranger in an expensive suit who'd lingered near Sophia's work longer than most visitors. She'd assumed he was just another wealthy collector. But something went wrong with your plan. Everything went wrong. Adrien stood and walked to the window, his reflection ghost-like against the city lights. I was supposed to use you and discard you. Instead, I found myself genuinely caring whether you lived or died. How romantic. It's more than that, and you know it. He turned back to her, and Victoria saw desperation in his eyes. What happened between us tonight, the connection we felt, it wasn't manipulation. It was real. Was it? Or is this just another lie? I don't know anymore. The confession seemed to surprise him as much as her. For the first time in my life, I'm not sure what's real and what's strategy. Victoria stood, her decision crystallizing. Then let me go. If you really care about me, give me the choice. I can't. Why not? Because my mother is flying back from Switzerland tomorrow morning. Because Prometheus has already put a kill order out on you. Because the only way to keep you alive is to make them believe you're already dead. Adrien pulled out his phone and showed her a news alert. The headline made her stomach drop. Gallery curator dies in suspected gas explosion. Your apartment building is gone, Victoria. Officially, you died in the blast 3 hours ago. Victoria stared at the phone screen, seeing images of emergency. Vehicles and a smoking crater where her home had been. Emma, was she? She's safe. I had her picked up before the explosion. She's in protective custody. Your protective custody. It's the only kind that matters right now. Adrien pocketed the phone. Victoria, listen to me. I know I've lied to you, manipulated you, put you in danger. But everything I've done has been to keep you alive long enough for us to finish this together. Finish what? Destroying the people who killed Sophia Laurent, who murdered my father. Who would have killed you tonight if I hadn't intervened? He moved closer, his voice urgent. I have all 17 of Sophia's hidden paintings. You have the knowledge to interpret them correctly. Together we can expose 50 years of crimes and bring down the most powerful criminal organization in the country. And if I refuse, then you'll spend the rest of your very short life running from people who are much better at hunting than you are at hiding. Victoria looked around the penthouse one more time. Luxury built on murder. Power maintained. Through fear, a legacy of violence that stretched back generations. There's a third option, she said quietly. What? We destroy all of it, Prometheus. Your mother's empire, your family's legacy. But we don't replace it with your version of control, Victoria. Met his eyes. We burn it all down and walk away. Adrien stared at her for a long moment. You'd give up the chance for justice? For revenge? I'd give up the chance to become like them? Victoria moved toward him, close enough to see the conflict in his expression. The question is, can you? Before he could answer, the penthouse's security system began blaring an alarm. Red lights flashed as electronic locks engaged on every door and window. Someone's in the building, Adrien said, his voice suddenly deadly calm. And they're coming for us. Victoria realized their time for moral debates had just run out. Whatever Adrien's true intentions, whatever lies he'd told, they were about to face something much worse together. How many exits does this place have? She asked. None that aren't already compromised. Adrien pulled a gun from the safe, checking the chamber with practiced efficiency. But there is one place they'll never think to look for us. Where? The roof. There's a helicopter pad designed for exactly this kind of emergency. He handed her a smaller weapon. Can you shoot? Victoria hefted the gun, surprised by its weight. Sophia taught me more than just art appreciation, okay? Adrien's smile was sharp. As a blade, I really should have seen that coming. As footsteps echoed from the stairwell beyond the penthouse door, Victoria realized she was about to discover just how much of her old life she was willing to sacrifice to survive the night. The helicopter's rotors cut through the night air as Manhattan spread below them like a circuit board of lights and shadows. Victoria pressed her face to the window, watching the city that had been her home disappear into the distance. Where are we going? She shouted over the noise. Somewhere my mother will never find us, Adrien replied, his hands steady on the controls. The place Sophia Laurent showed me in her final letter. Victoria turned to stare at him. What final letter? One she left with her lawyer, to be delivered only if something happened to both of us. Adrien's voice was grim. It arrived at my office this morning. The helicopter banked sharply, heading toward the Hudson River. Below them, the lights of the city gave way to darker landscapes of industrial warehouses and abandoned piers. She knew we'd end up together. She orchestrated it. Every meeting, every choice we thought we were making freely. Adrien landed the helicopter on a deserted pier, the rotors slowly winding down. Sophia Laurent was playing a game none of us understood. They climbed out into the cold night air. The pier was littered with the remnants of old shipping containers. And rusted machinery? At the far end stood a warehouse that looked like it had been abandoned for decades. This is where she wanted us to come. This is where she kept her real masterpiece. Adrien led her toward the warehouse, producing a key from his jacket. The painting that explains everything. Inside, the warehouse was transformed. Dozens of easels stood like sentinels in the darkness, each holding a canvas covered in white cloth. String lights hung from the ceiling, creating pools of warm illumination that made the space feel like a secret cathedral. My God, Victoria whispered. Adrie, and flipped a switch, and the entire warehouse blazed with light. Every canvas was revealed simultaneously, creating a panoramic display of Sophia Laurent's hidden work. But these weren't the paintings Victoria had expected. These were portraits, dozens of them, all showing the same subject at different ages, all showing Victoria. I don't understand, she said, moving from canvas to canvas. The paintings spanned years, showing her as a child, a teenager, a young woman. How is this possible? Because Sophia Laurent wasn't just an artist, Victoria. She was your grandmother. The revelation hit Victoria like a physical blow. She sank onto a paint-stained stool, staring at the portraits with new understanding. Grandmother died when I was 3. I barely remember her. Your grandmother faked her death to escape Prometheus. She spent 30 years documenting their crimes while watching you grow up from a distance. Adrien moved to the center of the warehouse, where a final easel stood draped in black cloth. She never stopped loving you, Victoria. Everything she did was to protect you? Protect me from what? From this. Adrien pulled away the black cloth. revealing a painting that made Victoria's blood freeze. It showed Eleanor Blackwood strangling a young woman who looked exactly like Victoria's mother. Prometheus didn't just kill random people who got in there. Way, Adrien said softly. They killed your parents because your mother discovered Sophia was still alive. Your father died trying to protect his wife's secret. Victoria's legs gave out completely. She stared at the painting, seeing her mother's face captured in Sophia's precise brushstrokes. The terror, the recognition, the final moment of understanding. Sophia watched my mother die. From across the street, it's just like she watched my father kill his secretary, just like she watched dozens of murders over the years. Adrien knelt beside Victoria's stool. She painted them all because she knew someday there would be justice. Someday someone would be strong enough to make them pay. Someone like you. Someone like us. Victoria looked around the warehouse with new eyes. This wasn't just a collection of evidence, it was a shrine. Memorial to everyone Prometheus had destroyed over the decades. What does your mother's letter say about all this? Adrien pulled an envelope from his jacket, the paper yellowed with age. She explains everything. How she escaped Prometheus's first attempt to kill her. How she spent years learning their organization from the inside. How she chose you as her heir, not just because you were her granddaughter, but because you had the strength to finish what she started. And what about you? Where do you fit in Sophia's grand plan? I was supposed to be your weapon, the inside access you'd need to destroy Prometheus from within. Adrien's voice was bitter, but she didn't. Count on me falling in love with you. Victoria studied his face in the harsh warehouse lighting. Did you fall in love with me, I mean? I fell in love with the idea of you before we ever met. Reading Sophia's descriptions of your passion for art, your integrity, your refusal to compromise your values for money or status. He stood and walked to another painting. This one showing Victoria at her graduation from art school. But meeting you in person, seeing how you looked at art like it was sacred, how you cared more about protecting beauty than owning it, that wasn't part of the plan. Nothing about you was part of any plan I could have imagined. Adrien turned back to her, which is why I'm going to give you something no one in my family has ever given anyone. What? A real choice? He pulled a small device from his pocket. This transmitter will upload every painting in this warehouse to every major news outlet in the country. Within hours, Prometheus will be finished. My mother will spend the rest of her life in prison. Justice will finally be served. Victoria stared at the device. And the catch? No catch. You press the button. We destroy them all and disappear. You don't press it. We burn this place down and try to build normal lives somewhere else. Adrien placed the transmitter on the paint-stained table between them. But you have to decide. Not me, not Sophia's ghost, not anyone else. You. Victoria picked up the device, feeling its weight. Such a small thing to hold so much power. If I do this, how many innocent people will be hurt? Politicians, business leaders, people who might have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. But how many more people will be saved? How many future victims will never have to suffer what your parents did, what Sophia did, what we've been through? Victoria walked among the paintings, studying faces of people she'd never known but somehow felt connected to. Victims and survivors, predators and prey, all captured in Sophia's relentless documentation of power and corruption. She stopped before the portrait of her mother's murder. Eleanor Blackwood's face was clearly visible, twisted with rage and satisfaction. There was no ambiguity, no room for doubt. Your mother killed my parents. Yes, and you've known this the entire time. Yes. Victoria turned to face him. So why are you letting me choose? Why not just activate the transmitter yourself? 'Cause revenge taken in anger destroys the person seeking it. But justice chosen with clarity can heal entire communities. Adrien moved closer, his voice gentle. I've watched my mother's hatred consume her for 40 years. I won't let the same thing happen to you. Victoria looked at the transmitter one more time, then at the warehouse full of evidence that could topple governments and destroy lives. There's a third option, she said quietly. What? We take what we need to protect ourselves and the people we care about. Destroy the rest. Victoria moved to Adrien's side, close enough to feel his warmth in the cold warehouse. We don't become them, but we don't let them win either. What about justice for your parents? Sophia. Justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about preventing future harm. Victoria picked up the transmitter and held it out to him. We release enough evidence to cripple Prometheus without destroying innocent people. We disappear before they can retaliate, build something better. Adrien stared at her for a long moment, then took the device. You're sure? I'm sure. Victoria smiled, and for the first time in hours it felt genuine. But I have one condition. What? Emma comes with us. Wherever we go, whatever new lives we build, she's part of it, already arranged, waiting for us in Montreal with new identities and enough money to start over. Adrien's smile matched hers. Sophia's final gift to you. She left everything. To her granddaughter. As Adrien worked to program the transmitter for selective release, Victoria walked among the paintings one final time. She stopped before her own portrait as a child, painted by a grandmother she'd never known was watching over her. Thank you, she whispered to the canvas. For everything. The transmitter beeped softly as it completed its upload. Somewhere in newsrooms across the country, editors were receiving the story of the century. By morning, Prometheus would be fighting for survival instead of hunting its enemies. Ready? Adrien asked, pulling out a lighter. Victoria nodded. Together, they lit the warehouse ablaze, watching decades of pain and secrets turn to ash and smoke. As the flames consumed Sophia Laurent's final exhibition, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Peace. They walked hand in hand toward the helicopter, leaving the burning warehouse behind them. The city lights beckoned in the distance, full of possibilities and second chances. So what happens now? Victoria asked as they lifted off into the night sky. Now we disappear. New names, new lives, new chances to be better than the people who made us. Adrien's voice was warm with possibility. What do you want to do with your freedom? Victoria looked back one last time at the fire consuming their past, then forward toward whatever future they would create together. I want to open a gallery, somewhere small and quiet, where art can just be beautiful instead of dangerous. Squeezed his hand. What about you? I want to write. Tell stories that matter. Create something meaningful instead of just accumulating power. Adrien smiled. Think a tech billionaire and an art curator can figure out how to be normal people? I think we're about to find out. As their helicopter disappeared into the night, leaving behind the burning evidence of their former lives, Victoria, Sterling, and Adrien Blackwood began the most important artwork of their lives, the careful, deliberate creation of a love story that belonged entirely to them. 3 months later, in a small coastal town in Nova Scotia, a new gallery opened its doors. The owner, a quiet woman named Sarah Chen, specialized in emerging artists and community workshops. Her business partner, a former tech consultant named Michael Grant, ran writing classes for local children. They were happy in ways neither had ever imagined possible. Sometimes, late at night, they would talk about the people they used to be and the world they'd left behind. But mostly they focused on the future they were building together, one day at a time. Love, they discovered, was the most subversive art of all. The end.